My friend Andrea.
That is the best way to start the presentation so far. Rockin'? Ready, my clicker? This takes a lot of coordination. For two hands, visuals, speaking. All right, so I would like to start today, and I would like to ask you all a question. And that question is this: what do these three places have in common? There's a lot of ways you can answer this question, but for me the easiest way to answer it is this: these are places that you move when you have a dream that you'd like to make come true. 2 years ago, I had a dream. I was living in Miami, I was working in advertising, but my dream was to become a writer. So I asked myself, if I could move anywhere in the world, the sky is the limit, but I want to manifest this dream, where would I go? And like any good market researcher, I looked at a lot of different places. New York City, where the publishing industry began. Seattle, an incredible literary community. Minneapolis, fantastic arts and endowment, and where a lot of the small presses are up and coming. But as it turned out, of all the places in the world I could go to work on being a writer, the place #1 in the world was much closer to home than I'd expected. And as it seemed, a lot of really great people had made the same decision before me. And so I packed up everything I owned, got on a plane, came back, and bought a house 1 block from the hospital in which I was born. How many of you have heard of the hero's journey? It's actually sort of a model used in all of great literature when someone is trying to overcome a great obstacle and when they run into difficulty. And so I can tell you that with all of that fanfare and with all of that excitement, I showed up at the Cedar Rapids airport and said, "Hello, Eastern Iowa, I am back and I am ready to become a writer." And what I imagined was this community was just fanfare and engulfment, that writers would be coming out of the woodwork, that there would be opportunities, open doors, offices to ask questions, publishers, that I would literally be in the mecca of writing. 6 months after I moved back here, I didn't have one friend that was a writer. I hadn't joined a single writing group, and I wasn't any closer to manifesting that writing dream than I had been in Miami. In fact, if you asked me to describe for you what my experience was like, this is the best thing I could give you. It was like these writers were this incredible, mystical group of people, but I just couldn't find out who they were, or where they were, or how to tap into their magic. Now, while the literary community didn't exactly welcome me with the open arms and the fanfare and all of the resources that I'd hoped, there was another community that I did find. And they were very accessible, and they did have open doors, and they did have an office, and there were smiling faces. How many of you either know someone on this list or have someone here that's helping you achieve your dream? Ah, so good to see all those hands. These were the people I started spending my time with, and as I shared with them my story, I received a lot of the same feedback. They all said, "You know what, Andrea? You may have a point. Maybe there's a hole in the marketplace. Maybe you should look into this, do a little research, and see about solving this problem." So I started to do that. I set up over 100 coffees with different people in the literary community around Eastern Iowa, and I started asking questions. One of them being, am I crazy? And this is what I found out. While the publishing and the writing industry is incredibly big, and in fact, 1 in 3 people have considered writing a book, and many of those people are looking for places to go to write a book, the Eastern Iowa literary community is actually much harder to get into in the sense that it's primarily run by universities. We don't have a public literary center, and there aren't as many literary organizations as there are in some of those other cities I mentioned. In this slide, I'm quoting the University of Iowa, but there are many other universities and colleges around here that have excellent literary programs. But as with all programs across the country, there's only so much admittance, and there's only so many students that they accept. What I did find is that there are a plethora of organizations around, small presses, people with information. This is a rich community. What it didn't have was an on-ramp. And this is something that those folks at the CoLab and someone named Andy Stoll shared with me often, that entrepreneurs are always looking for. They're looking for someone to open the door. They're looking for a way in. And this is when I started to realize what I wanted to do with my life. I founded an organization called the Iowa Writers House. And the Iowa Writers House is about providing three things. One, a welcoming community and that on-ramp for writers when they move to the area, or writers who are already here in the area who aren't currently involved in a university program, or writers who have graduated from a university program and who, as opposed to moving away, would like to stay and be part of something. We want to provide experiences for our members. Those experiences are in craft, meaning to become a better writer, and socially, to bring people together. Writing has a reputation for being a solitary thing, but it's actually, like all things, what people need to spend time together, to feel that tribe, to have a sense of community and be inspired by each other. And so our goal is to work with people across Eastern Iowa who are already doing smaller events. I'm sure many of you know the lovely Aqui, has the fantastic Poe Jam. There's a group called Voice Box. There's a lot of fantastic things going around here. And we want to bring all of those together with a single on-ramp that when people ask the questions, what is going on in the literary community, we can send them there. And lastly, we want to become a runway to those resources. So, the small presses that exist here locally, we'd like to send people there, as opposed to making them think that every time they need to get published, they need to make a call out to New York. Or if you're looking for an editor, there are many people that are actually working as independent editors here in these communities. But because they're all marketing themselves individually, when you as a writer decide that you're looking for an editor, you're not going to be able to find them. Jobs and gigs. I'm sure every one of you has a website, a brochure, or some sort of marketing material for the organization you work for. How great would it be to have a fantastic writer put that material together? And how great would it be to use someone locally instead of going outside? We'd like to provide a runway for that to happen. The glue, the runway, and the physical space. Now the physical space is something that I'd like to pose to all of you today. Right now, we are using a space in Iowa City, part-time, which also happens to be the place that I live. The long-term goal is to have a space in Iowa City and in Cedar Rapids. And I'd like each one of you to go away today thinking about what could that place be? Where do writers want to gather? What kind of creative space could we create in this community? In Minneapolis, an organization called The Loft is in a large downtown, very industrial building, extremely cool. In Seattle, they've taken over an old house called Hugo House. Both of these places exist as the central place in the community where all writers gather, where graduates of the community get jobs, and essentially is the mecca where people define their sense of place. So far, in the 6 months that we've officially been an organization, these are some of the partners we've worked with and some of the organizations that we look forward to working with in the future. We've also had some great events. One of them up here as an example is a filmmaker spotlight, where we brought in Marc-Jude Poirier from LA to talk about his film Goats and how his screenwriting came from an original writing process he started here in Iowa. We also had a travel writing workshop with Michelle Morano, another amazing graduate of the University of Iowa who now teaches at DePaul and who I met at an international writing conference. Up next on our agenda this year is to consider more partnerships. We're looking for more people to work with. We need your help finding these amazing organizations, individuals, writers, presses, everything that's making up this ecosystem vibrantly but needs to be part of that on-ramp. Please let us know what it is, where it exists, and how we can help connect people to it. All suggestions on physical space is absolutely welcomed. And lastly, please help us in general get the word out by sharing everything you see.